I hope this video has provided important insights into the ongoing crisis in Myanmar and possible solution for the restoring democracy and peace in our country. Now, it is my honor to invite our distinguished speaker to deliver their keynote addresses. First of all, I would like to invite Chairman of SUHAKAM, Datuk Seri Muhammad Hishamuddin Muhammad Yunus. Let's welcome Datuk Seri with a round of applause to deliver keynote address. Thank you.
His Excellency Tan Sri Osman Hashim, Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair of Myanmar, His Excellency Mr. Edmund Bon Taisun, Chair and Representative of Malaysia to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, Honorable panelists and moderator, Your Excellencies, Mr. Raghunathan, SUHAKAM Commissioner, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Salam Sejahtera and a very good evening. On behalf of the organizing partners, namely the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, SUHAKAM, Building and Woodworkers International, BWI, ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights, Amnesty International Malaysia, and the youth section of the Kuala Lumpur and Selangor Chinese Assembly Hall, KLCAH Youth. I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone present this evening, joining us both in person as well as online, to the public forum and solidarity ceremony, Free Myanmar Now, Diaspora Resistance and the Fight for Democracy. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of the Myanmar diaspora, who are the main reason we are gathered here today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the main objectives of today's forum are to provide a platform for the Myanmar diaspora to share their experiences of the situation in Myanmar following the military coup on 1st February 2021, approximately 4 years ago, and to bring together key actors and stakeholders from ASEAN in providing support towards the people in Myanmar. Your participation and contribution in this forum will, without doubt, help us have a deeper understanding on the implications, subsequent actions by the military coup, such as the extreme brutality and horrendous use of force on civilians, denial of humanitarian aid, crackdown on peaceful protesters, and mechanisms put in place by the military to restrict freedom of movement, expression, and assembly. According to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners Burma, AAPP. A frightening rate of around 6,000 civilians have been killed by the military over the past 4 years, and this includes women and children. In addition, over 20,000 civilians have been arrested and detained. Although it has been reported that the military's power in the country has largely diminished, the military continues to expand their atrocities and violence, both in scope and intensity. We are seeing worldwide civil disobedience campaigns and protests occurring against the military until today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it has been 4 years since the military seized power from the civilian government. The situation has not seen much change in terms of restoration of democracy and respect for human rights. It is evident that the developments in Myanmar has impacted not only the citizens of Myanmar, but also those who fled to seek refuge in the neighboring countries like Malaysia. As Malaysia is currently the chair of ASEAN and the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, the Malaysian government's leadership in addressing the ongoing political crisis in Myanmar carries weight and is extremely crucial and instrumental. Last year, we saw the appointment of His Excellency Tan Sri Osman Hashim, former chairman of SUHAKAM, as a special envoy of the ASEAN Chair of Myanmar, and are pleased to note that meetings and discussions in line with the special envoy's mandate have already taken place. In 2024, ASEAN leaders have also collectively agreed to maintain the ASEAN 5-point consensus as the main references to address the special crisis in Myanmar, and therefore should take on a more proactive role in implementing the 5 points of the consensus, namely, an immediate end to violence, constructive dialogue among all parties, to seek peaceful solution in the interest of the people, allowing humanitarian assistance by ASEAN, and allowing the ASEAN Special Envoy to visit Myanmar to meet with all parties. ASEAN states should not be a bystander to this crisis. And oblige themselves to the principle of non-interference when we are clearly seeing crimes against humanity and acts of genocide unfold in front of our very eyes. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today's forum will be one of many that will be organized in the future and is a continuation of many that have been organized in the past. SUHAKAM is encouraged by Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Utama Haji Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs' commitment to resolving the Myanmar crisis at the recent ASEAN Foreign Ministers retreat held last month. SUHAKAM would like to reiterate our support for the government's ongoing efforts to improve the management of refugees by reviewing the National Security Council Directive number 23 to allow refugees to work, However, while SUHAKAM acknowledges the implementation of NSC Directive 23 as an interim measure, we remain concerned about the effectiveness of this initiative as a long-term solution, particularly regarding refugees' access to medical facilities and the right of refugee children to attend government schools. In this regard, SUHAKAM strongly urges the government to prioritize the enactment of a Refugee and Asylum Act and Malaysia's accession to the 1951 Refugee Convention and its 97 protocol, which is long overdue. These measures will provide legal clarity, protection, and stability for refugees and asylum seekers, while also benefiting Malaysia through structured workforce integration and international recognition of Malaysia's commitment to human rights. SUHAKAM would like to take this opportunity to renew our support to work closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and AICHR Malaysia during Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN for 2025, as well as the Myanmar diaspora, members of the diplomatic missions, and civil society organizations in addressing the crisis. SUHAKAM is also a member of the Southeast Asia National Human Rights Institution Forum, CNF, that comprises of national human rights institutions in the region to promote, protect, and fulfill human rights effectively in the region. SUHAKAM will continue to engage with like-minded CNF members and HRIs in advocating, collaborating, and fostering regional support towards addressing this issue at hand. With that, I would like also to take this opportunity to thank everyone for your time and commitment to participate in this forum. Together, we can continue our efforts towards a democratic transition, peace resolution, and the return of power to the people of Myanmar. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Datuk Seri Muhammad Hashamuddin Muhammad Yunus, for your warm welcome and insightful remark. Next, it is time to welcome Deputy Minister of Labour, National Unity Government of Myanmar, U Johnny. Although he could not join us in person due to unforeseen circumstances, he has sent a pre-recorded message for us, and let us watch now. Thank you.
အားလုံးပဲမင်္ဂလာကျွန်တော်ကတော့ပြည်ထောင်စုသမ္မတမြန်မာနိုင်ငံတော်အစိုးရအလို့သမားဝန်ကြီးဌာနကဒုတိယဝန်ကြီးဦးကျော်နေဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီနေ့အခမ်းအနားမှာတက်ရောက်စကားပြောခွင့်ရတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်စီစဉ်သူအားလုံးကိုအများကြီးပဲကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ຫນွေဦးတော်လှန်ရေးရာ4 နှစ်ကျော်ကာလကိုရောက်ရှိနေပြီပေါ့လွန်ခဲ့တဲ့4 နှစ်ဒီအချိန်မှာကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာပြည်သူလူထုဟာတန်းနဲ့ချီပြီးတော့လမ်းမပေါ်ကိုတက်ပြီးတော့စစ်အာဏာသိမ်းတာကိုစန့်ကျင်ကန့်ကွက်ဆန္ဒပြနေခဲ့ကြပါတယ် ဒါပေမဲ့အကြမ်းဖက်စစ်ကောင်စီကအကြမ်းမဖက်နီးနဲ့ဆန္ဒပြနေတဲ့ပြည်သူလူထုကိုအကြမ်းနီးနဲ့ဖြိုခွင်းနဲ့တပ်ဖြတ်တယ်နေပေါ်အထိကိုကျူးကျော်တပ်ဖြတ်ဖမ်းဆီးတာတွေလှုပ်လာခဲ့တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ပြည်သူလူထုဟာအခြားသောနီးနာပေါင်းစုံနဲ့ပါဒီမိုကရေစီပြန်လည်ထွန်းကားရေးအတွက်ကိုဆက်ပြီးတော့တိုက်ပွဲဝင်နေခဲ့ကြရပါတယ်ခုချိန်ထိကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့မြို့တော်လိုင်းရတိုက်ပွဲဝင်နေစေဖြစ်ပါတယ်အောင်ပွဲမရရှိသေးတော့ညာလဲအောင်ပွဲနဲ့လက်တကမ်းအခြေအနေကိုရောက်ရှိနေပြီလို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရှေ့တောင်အာရှနိုင်ငံအများစုဟာတစ်ချိန်ကကိုလိုနီနိုင်ငံတွေဖြစ်ခဲ့ကြပါတယ်ကိုလိုနီဘဝကလွတ်မြောက်ပြီးတဲ့နောက်ပိုင်းမှာခုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်နိုင်ငံအများစုဟာဖွံ့ဖြိုးတိုးတက်တဲ့လမ်းစာပေါ်ရောက်ရှိနေကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံကတော့စစ်အုပ်စုဆက်ဆက်ရဲ့မှားယွင်းတဲ့စီမံခန့်ခွဲမှုတွေရက်စက်တဲ့ဖိနှိပ်မှုတွေကြောင့်ခုချိန်ထိဖွံ့ဖြိုးမှုနောက်ကျနေစေဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြည်သူလူထုနဲ့အတူအမြဲတမ်းရပ်တည်ပြီးတဲ့ဒီအာဆီယံနိုင်ငံကပြည်သူလူထုတွေအပါအဝင်ကမ္ဘာပြည်သူလူထုကြီးကိုလည်းကျေးဇူးတင်ရှိကြောင်းဒီညနေပြောဆိုလိုပါတယ်ခုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အကြမ်းဖက်စစ်ကောင်စီဟာရှုံးနေတဲ့အခြေအနေရှိနေပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ဒီအခြေအနေကိုသူကိုယ်တိုင်ကလည်းဝန်မခံသလိုအချို့သောနိုင်ငံတွေကလည်းဒီအခြေအနေကိုလက်တွေ့အမှန်တကယ်အတိုင်းကိုသိမြင်မနေပါဘူးအကြမ်းဖက်စစ်ကောင်စီကပဲအောင်ပွဲတွေရနေတယ်လို့စစ်ကောင်စီကပဲနိုင်တော့မလို့ထင်အောင်ထင်မှာတွေးနေကြတာတွေကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့မြင်နေရပါတယ်တကယ်အရှိတရားမှာတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြည်သူလူထုကမကြခင်မှာအောင်ပွဲရရှိတော့မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ် ILO COI ရဲ့ကြံပြုတ်တိုက်တွန်းချက်တွေကိုလုံးဝလေးစားလိုက်နာခြင်းမရှိပဲပြည်သူတွေကိုအထမစစ်တိုက်ခိုင်းနေတဲ့အလုံသမားသမဂ္ဂတွေကိုရဲကျက်ဆက်ဆက်ဖြိုခွင်းနေတဲ့အကြမ်းဖက်စစ်တပ်ကို ILO Article 33အရအရေးယူမှုမှာနီလန်မျိုးစုံနဲ့ပူးပေါင်းပါဝင်ပေးဖို့မိတ်ဆွေအာဆီယံနိုင်ငံတွေနဲ့ ILO ဖွဲ့ဝင်နိုင်ငံအားလုံးကိုလေးလေးနက်နက်တိုက်တွန်းလိုပါတယ်အဲ့တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့တိုင်းပြည်ကိုတည်ငြိမ်အေးချမ်းစေလို့တည်ငြိမ်အေးချမ်းလို့တယ်ဒီမိုကရေစီအသီးပွင့်တွေဖြစ်ထွန်းလို့တယ်လူ့အခွင့်အရေးအလုံသမားအခွင့်အရေးအမျိုးသမီးကလေးငယ်စတဲ့အခွင့်အရေးတွေဖွံ့ဖြိုးတိုးတက်လို့တယ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ຫນွေဦးတော်လှန်ရေးကိုအားပေးကူညီပြီးတော့အကြမ်းဖက်စစ်ကောင်စီကိုနှီးမျိုးစုံနဲ့ပိတ်ပင်တားဆီးအရေးယူဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
Thank you so much, Ujoni, for providing an in-depth updates on the situation in Myanmar after the military coup. Now, I would like to invite everyone to join me to invite Chair and Representative of Malaysia, ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, AICHR, His Excellency Edmund Tyson. Let us welcome His Excellency to the stage for keynote address.
Good evening, everyone. Very packed room, and I see a lot of people standing up. I want to acknowledge the ASEAN Chair, Special Envoy to Myanmar, Tan Sri Othman Hashim. He was my boss when I was in the first term at AICHR 2016, and I've known him to be a very resolute and dedicated civil servant, and now one of our leading diplomats. And I'm sure that he will do his best to try and find some peace and solution to this long-standing crisis. And we need to provide that kind of support and encouragement, as well as the understand the limitations and dedications, limitations and the work that is being put in by our special envoy. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Sri Hishamuddin Yunus for leading SUHAKAM. SUHAKAM is one of the braver organizations in this country that continue to fight for human rights, supported by Parliament and supported by members of the Commission, like my friend Raghunath Kesavan, who's here today. We need to also continue to support SUHAKAM as an NHRI. Please remember that not all ASEAN states have NHRI, and where we do have an NHRI, while we have many deficiencies in our own country, having an organization like SUHAKAM and NHRI will definitely be a platform that is necessary to continue the fight for human rights. I actually didn't want to speak very long. I actually didn't want to come today and didn't want to speak today because I know and hear on a daily basis and read a lot of the negativity and the stories of the war and the conflict in Myanmar. It is very sad, and I want to continue to send my condolences to all the victims and survivors of this conflict. But seeing all of you here and listening again to the stories and conversations on this conflict has impelled me to say a few words, and I hope you will bear with me on some of the things I wanted to say. It's very hard. Normally I come to CSO forums, I come to SUHAKAM forums, Bar Council forums all the time. It's very easy to speak off the cuff without a prepared speech. But when, like Tan Sri Ompang will know, and myself, even when we are in ASEAN, as Malaysia's representatives, Malaysia's diplomats, we need to be very careful with what we say. We also need to be very careful with the language that we use, no matter how angry we are, no matter how emotional we are. And sometimes that's why we see a lot of prepared texts that are prepared for a lot of our diplomats, our foreign ministers, to ensure that the right things are said at the right time. So coming to this type of event, I'm not sure whether I'm coming here as a lawyer in my firm that does human rights work, or I come here as chairing the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights as a representative of Malaysia. But seeing how I've been asked to describe my own thinking about this, I want to speak off the cuff without a prepared text as to certain things that I want and I hope all of you will understand in navigating the maze, this difficult situation, a very complex situation of the conflict in Myanmar. As you know, Myanmar has been in conflict for a long time. This is not a situation, and this is not a one-off issue, but what we have seen is that despite the international community and Malaysia being one of the leading voices in ASEAN, calling out possible genocide of the Rohingyas at that time, and people were saying, why are you saying this type of things? Why are you breaking ASEAN consensus? And you know the poetry, right? You know the poetry. If you don't say anything, they'll come for you, and then there'll be no one who'll speak for you. And today what you see is not only a minority group that has been oppressed, or a minority group that has been suppressed, or a minority group that has been targeted, but you see that the conflict has involved great number of communities, whether you are Rohingya, whether you're not Rohingya. We have seen that the conflict involves the people, all the people of Burma, and you see that this conflict has spread not just against minority groups, but consistently on the majority groups. And you can see what we have seen. We have seen how ordinary people, and I was just asking Tan Sri just now, how many civilians have died from this conflict? 6,000, 7,000, maybe more. Right? We have seen that this conflict is a conflict that no longer is just confined to one group, and no longer confined to just a few minority groups who are taking arms, but has spread across the region, and we have seen the negative news and the atrocities. So what has ASEAN done? What has Malaysia done, for example? I can speak from my own experience. For us, representing Malaysia, we were the first to speak out against the issues of the Rohingyas as way back as 2016, 2017, 2018. So to such an extent that there were two of us that had to make a minority statement, breaking consensus at the AICHR, because we had tried our best our very best, even discussing it with the representative of Myanmar and the governments as to how they would respond to the Rohingya crisis. If you recall, even at that time, the Rohingyas were being sent around, leaving Myanmar, and there were countries that were either pushing them back or accepting them. Recall that time. And then at that time, there were people that were saying, you are doing something that ASEAN doesn't normally do. But we say that we cannot stand watching things that are happening before us when we are in some position of influence and do nothing about it, because we do not want blood on our hands. Fast forward a few years later, you now see that whole gap from 2018 right up to 2021, right up to the coup. The conversations and the discussions about the brutality in, and the issues of the elections, issues of democracy in Myanmar was also discussed within the walls of the ASEAN corridors. And we had 4 representatives. I wasn't there, but we had 4 representatives, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, who made a statement in 2021 post-coup. Because again, AICHR could not gain consensus as to issuing a statement on the military coup. Then you now see, after the discussions, that this issue had gone up at a very high political level where the ministers had to decide to do something. And that's where we have the 5-point consensus. And that's where we have now, and the past, every year we have the special envoy that tries their best to try and implement the 5PC. I have gone around in my short time since I was taking on this role as chair. I went to a few places in Thailand. I've been speaking to many groups, whether from CSOs or from the ethnic groups. And the one call that I would keep repeating, that I keep hearing, is that the bombing must stop. That has always been the first call that people keep saying to us. I hear, I listen, and we keep trying to do what we can in our advocacy to talk about that. So in terms of the 5PC, of course, the issue of ceasefire is a key issue. Humanitarian aid is another issue. But I think what we are hearing is that the bombing must stop. And we see now not just impunity in Myanmar, we see that it's a global phenomenon. We see countries now wanting to violate international law, or countries attempting to pick and choose what type of law suits them and what type of law they would like to discard. So this issue, of course, not diluting the seriousness of what is happening in Myanmar, is something that we really need to be concerned about. And in terms of human rights, we have made our undertaking this year at AICHR to look during Malaysia's chairmanship into the issues of peace, into the issues of conflict management, conflict resolution, peace-building initiatives, and how from there we can try our best to enhance the growth of development in different countries in ASEAN, including in Myanmar. So the issues of how peace are related to sustainable development, how peace are related to inclusive growth, how peace is related to the right to development. So in ASEAN, everybody has a right to development under Article 35 of the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. And the right to development includes social development, economic development, cultural development, and political development. All these spheres of the right to development is something that we need to look at. We need to keep pushing, keep encouraging. And from our part, I have said many, many times that we will have to stand as human rights representatives, as commissioners. We have to stand, I speak for myself, we have to stand for the victims and survivors of human rights violations. We are not there, despite us, you see on Facebook, on social media, despite us seeing a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions and a lot of shaking of hands and a lot of dinners. These are the diplomatic efforts that are made in different arenas and different issues. However, what is important is that the messages that come through these events, the messages that we try and portray, we try and advocate for, rest assured, for my part, I can say, and I'm sure for Malaysia's part, we can say that we will do our best. We will leave no stone unturned as far as possible within our power and influence to make the necessary recommendations, adjustments, because there are people that will use arms to fight. What do we have? We have dialogue. We have diplomacy. We use words. Of course, there are groups in Myanmar which, I don't pretend to know, that have to use arms, right? And that's why you have a situation where one side is saying they are terrorists and another side is saying they're terrorists. I'm not here to judge. What I think we want to do is to say that we need to stop the conflict. We need to preserve, provide peace. But the peace must not only be negative peace. It must also be positive peace. Negative peace is just an absence of conflict, absence of violence. But positive peace means that we need to help countries, not only Myanmar, but around ASEAN, if we're talking about ASEAN countries, to build up political, cultural, institutional structures that will provide for the better standard of living for everyone. And this, I can tell you again, will be one of our goals for this year. We have been working very hard. It's not easy because we have to get capacity. We need to coordinate with a lot of people. We need to try and convince a lot of people. And we may not be able to do it in 1 year. Speaking for myself, I'm sure maybe Tan Sri or Datuk Sri is the miracle workers can do things in a year, but it is a long haul. However, what is really important is that whatever that you are feeling, the negativity, the things that the negative news that we see on headlines, we are also feeling. And we also feel the emotions that come from these negative news. You do your part, you have a role, we have a role, we do our part. And that's why today we are here speaking to each other, collaborating with each other, and I invite you this whole year to connect with us, connect with our team. We are looking at different platforms and different workshops and different initiatives to do what we can do within the powers and influence that we have. So thank you very much. I hope I've not taken too much of your time. And I hope you have a good session.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like you to remain on the stage for a while. This time, I would like to invite Chairman of SUHAKAM, Datuk Seri Muhammad Hashamuddin Muhammad Yunus, to hand out the token of appreciation to Your Excellency. Let us give a round of applause. Thank you so much, Datuk Seri and Your Excellency. Before we proceed with the next agenda, I would like to invite everyone to remain seated at your own seat for the official photo sections. If you are comfortable being photographed for the event record, please join us. If you are not, you may step up. Thank you for this moment. Now, we have arrived at one of the most anticipated part of this event, the public forums. It is my pleasure to invite our moderator, Mr. Wang Yanke, Asia Pacific Regional Campaign Officer of Building and Woodworker International, BWI, to lead the discussions.
Hi everyone. How are you? Good? Yeah? Are we here together with Myanmar? Myanmar people? Not the military junta, of course. Yeah? Alright, so good evening everyone. So my name is Yanke. I'm the BWI Regional Campaign Officer. So first of all, I would like to invite the speakers to here. Bear with me because I know that it's 8:30 right now and we haven't started the panel, right? So I would like to invite Mr. Raghunath Kesavan as the Commissioner of Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, SUHAKAM. Please welcome. Madam Mahi Ramakrishnan as the founder of the Beyond Borders Malaysia. James, the chairman of the Alliance of Chin Refugees. Sam as the representative of Kachin refugee community. And then also Rahmat. Rahmat, are you here? Yeah, please come. The president of Rohingya Society Malaysia. So you can see right now, yeah, because usually the NGOs or trade unions, we have the financial constraints, so that's why we do everything together. Yeah, I'm the moderator, but at the same time also carrying the chairs. But if possible, is it okay for me to help me to move this podium? Yeah, thank you. Right. Anyway, welcome everyone to this very crucial discussion. And I'm pretty sure just now our keynote speakers have already given a very good introductions about what is happening right now in Myanmar and also the struggles of Myanmar people. And this is why we have the panelists today, because when we talk about Myanmar issue, we need to focus on the key stakeholder, which is the people. And today, we are so honored to invite, we can have the refugee community leaders who are here all today. And let us listen to their struggle as well. Them as the Myanmar people, the citizens, as also as a refugee in Malaysia. What are the struggles being experienced in Malaysia? So, if I may, I can start. Let me just cue James. Perhaps, James, can you tell us more, especially before the military coup in 2021 and right now, what are the situations being faced by Kachin community, especially back in, Chin community in Myanmar? Yeah. And then maybe you can give us a big comparisons about the differences before and after, right? Please do. Yeah. The challenge before the military coup and right now. And also, yeah, please give your inputs. 5 minutes, thank you.
I'm going to say, the military coup has dramatically escalated the sufferings of the Chin peoples. And then also, yet it's led to a significant improvement how we are treated abroad also. And then, what I'm going to say is, before the military coups, we've been marginalized in Myanmar, and then we've been suppressed for many years. And then as you all know, Myanmar is a very poor country in the world, but then the Chin state is the poorest state in Myanmar. So the facts the military coups doesn't change. I'm going to say the sufferers of the Chin peoples, and also we are always marginalized, and also we are often overlooked after the military coup. Also we are always overlooked on the discussions of Myanmar displaced communities, and our peoples, many of whom have fled decades of persecutions, continue to face discriminations and lack of legal recognitions, and also severe restrictions on our rights.
Yeah. How about Kachin community? Can you share us more about the struggles before and after? the military coup? Is there any difference?
I can, sorry that, okay. I can say that it's totally similar, but then for us it's like, we have like pack and pack, even that we don't have any seats in our community. So it's like, you know, it's very obvious that before that there is a newcomer, there were a newcomer, but then after the military coup, there is more. It's like increasingly, like dramatically that we can say like, it's, even we can't like accommodate them, and also we can't even give them services that they need. So it's like when they are coming here, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to start, and the language, the barrier, and also the differences of the culture and the work, everything, that they have to start from zero again here. But the community cannot help, especially when they arrested. It's a chaos.
Yeah.
You know, in our country that we also need to scared of the soldier, they come and arrest us, but then in here, we also need to scared of the police.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, the same situation that the fear is never ending, but for the community, we need to struggle the hospital, the school, and also for the work and the police arrest and detention.
Before I go to Rohingya, I just want to quickly, because you are also a woman from a marginalized community as well, can you share about the struggles of women?
Of course, that because it's like, you know, the women in our country, maybe they have some educated, but mostly are not. So when they come, they don't know where to walk. So at home, they depend on the husband if they have, or if not, then they have to walk by themselves for the family and the children. So it's like, as a head teacher in KRLC, I have to, like, you know, talk a lot of the parents who are struggling. Like, you know, when they have, especially with the health issue, they don't have any extra money to pay for the hospital bills, or maybe for the school fees, then they even cannot pay for 120 ringgit a month for a child. And then they come and beg for that, and then excuses that because of this and that and all that. So, and because their income is not as much as the other people do, as because of their lack of the knowledge and lack of the languages, and also undocumented. So,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. So, how definitely we know that Rohingya is facing the worst, not before and also after. All right. So perhaps we can listen some perspective from Rohingya community. Please do, Rama. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rahmat Abdul Karim from Rohingya Society in Malaysia. So actually, we are forced to become stateless in Myanmar since 1982. Prior to that, we were having full rights of freedoms, like we used to represent our ID, but we don't want to talk about the history here. But since very long time, we have been waiting for democracy. And when there was a democracy, so actually Aung San Suu Kyi, she wanted to bring some changes, but it was very sad thing, even though she was a winner, and the military did not recognize her result, and there was a coup. So our hope, when there was a hope at the start of the democracy, but the hope faded because again the military rule came again. So our people, as James said, Chin is a poorest state. I was thinking the Arakan is the poorest state. But our people are very hard worker. This way they survive in working as a farmer, fishers, or have been working in plantation. They were able to survive without very basic help from the government, as they were recognized as a stateless people. So things happen, you know, the military, the destabilization grow. We were thinking there will come peace, but we did not see the peace, and our people started to migrate. So people come here by boat, and every time a boat come here, from the local Malaysians, there is a huge hate speech, because thinking if you love these people, a lot of people will come here. So maybe that is why. It is not because Rohingya are bad, but Malaysian thinkings, more boat people will come, and this is something like they think it is a danger for the country. But I am telling you, we Rohingyas are genocide victims, and we request you to just to be patient with us. One day we will go back. I hope we all one day will go back when there is a stability, peace, and democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You can elaborate more later also as a refugee in Malaysia, as well as like what do you hope for later. But I will put Mahi on the spot, all right? So can you tell us more about, as a long-term observer, you have observed these democracy struggles, right, for decades, even before the military coup in 2021. So why actually it seems like there's a flaw in the system itself? The conflicts always happen between the ethnicity. We also know Chin, Kachin, and also Rohingya are always being marginalized in the Myanmar. So what do you think? Is it any kind of political factors, ethnicity, or economic factors that you see this conflict cannot be resolved? Yeah, and always have a new military
This
coming in.
certainly wasn't the question you had for me, right?
Yeah.
Certainly putting me on the spot. So I think that the most important thing here is to understand that the military rule and its power, it's very much entrenched within the system, within the constitution, especially after 2008, which enables the military to hold 25% of parliament seats. And that means that they are holding powerful ministries like, border control, home affairs, defense, for example. And this has serious implications on the socio-economic political sphere of the country. For example, they also control the economy because they control power, because they are so entrenched. So what they're doing is they're controlling a large section of the economy through state-owned enterprises and crony capitalism. And this has in turn ensured that there is no growth for institutions, which means that when you look at the media, when you look at political parties, when you look at institutions, when you look at the civil society organizations, you see them as weak. Now, of course, you have identity politics in Myanmar, and the National League for Democracy, Aung San Suu Kyi, is a clear example of that. But that's not institutional strength. That's identity politics, where it's about her popularity, right? So if you really take a step back, you'll understand that there is no robust decentralizing of political structures. And this has, impacted the various communities. It has impacted the resistance movements in Myanmar. But I would like to talk a little bit about what Teacher Sam said. She spoke about how women are adversely affected. And I want to point out that every time we have a conversation, we talk about women, peace, and security in passing. Mainly because, out of the 10 member states, only 3 have, national action plan on women, peace, and security. But when you talk about ASEAN, you immediately think of Myanmar, and you think of the conflict, you think of sexual violence. Yeah. But none of us are actually putting thought, action, or strategies to actually look at protection mechanisms for conflict-related sexual violence survivors. That's completely lacking. So, I think that, it's good that we are talking about this, but it's also good to understand that the entrenched political power of the military is the one that is actually very much, has deep hands in everything that's happening in Myanmar.
All right, thanks, Mahi. Very good insights. Yeah, and we all know when people clap for you. Yeah, so then I will just go to Mr. Raghunath. Perhaps you can tell us more about, as well you are the commissioner, SUHAKAM. What did SUHAKAM did so far for Myanmar issue? And also, I just want to ask, especially because people also criticize Malaysia as well as a government, because they talk a lot on this issue in Myanmar, but when it comes to the refugee issues, it seems like a bit lack of actions. So what is your view on this?
I think for SUHAKAM, we look at the Myanmar situation as two-pronged. One is the Rohingya situation. Secondly, of course, the military dictatorship, the junta, what's happening in Myanmar. The solution for us is there must be a place for the minorities in Myanmar. Right? So that's very important. So in any solution for Myanmar, refugees must be allowed to go home. That's extremely important. And we have spoken to quite a number of Rohingya groups in Malaysia. Every one of them want to go home. That's a fact. And I think when we speak about change, even from the NUG, we have not seen any policy in relation to the Rohingyas. That's lacking. So the concern we have is this: if you want support and acceptance by ASEAN and also the world community, you have to address the Rohingya problem. You must accept that they are part of Myanmar. If that is not part of the solution, it's going to be very difficult to find a just solution for what is happening in Myanmar. So that's very important. That's number one. For us in SUHAKAM, when we look at the issue of Myanmar, it has to be a holistic solution. The Rohingyas, the political solution in Myanmar in terms of how elections, for instance, how the election, obviously is not the right time for elections. That's a fact. And I think the Malaysian government's position has changed. Initially, they were in support of having elections. Now they said, no, it's not the right time to have elections, for instance. So that is the position of SUHAKAM. We want a holistic solution to what's happening in Myanmar. On the second point, to be fair, as His Excellency Edmund has mentioned, amongst the ASEAN nations, Malaysia is the strongest one who has spoken out on the issue of Myanmar and the Rohingyas. And even for SUHAKAM, because of this consensus policy within CNF as well, CNF is the organization of human rights commissions of ASEAN. Not all ASEAN nations have a human rights commission. Myanmar, the National Human Rights Commission of Myanmar is part of CNF. We've been trying to, Malaysia is in the forefront of trying to get them out, to be replaced by a more credible representative of the Human Rights Commission for Myanmar. Thailand strongly objects. I don't mind mentioning names of countries who do not support Malaysia. Extremely strong objection from Thailand. All right? So if one nation objects, then you cannot have consensus. So we have some form of agreement that there should be some suspension or what have you of the National Human Rights Commission of Myanmar. GANRI, the Global Alliance of the National Human Rights Institution, which is a worldwide body for human rights organizations, they've expelled Myanmar, the Myanmar Human Rights Commission. So, but in the solution that we are proposing, SUHAKAM's position is there must be a place for the Rohingyas to go back to Myanmar. That's our position.
Understand. Thank you. Right. So let's go back to the Diaspora Committee as well. So I just want to ask you personally, everyone of you, three of you especially. So when you see the news on the military coup that happened in 2021, what is the first feeling about this? Do you feel like you want to go back? You want to, fight for the democracy? How do you feel? And actually, what you as the Diaspora Committee in Malaysia, what kind of resistance you are trying to participate, and how do you contribute to the resistance back in Myanmar? Yeah, perhaps anyone want to start first? Oh, you will start first, Rahmat. Please do.
Yeah, I just want to tell the Myanmar people that military should not be in politics, because it is a theory or this is just logic. So if they want to be in politics, then they can resign from their military post and then serve as a civilian. So this is the basic thing. All over the world they are practicing this. So when it was a COP, as you asked, so our hope that we can fight in the parliament to get recognition Rohingyas as citizens.
Yeah.
So our hope was fade away.
Yeah, this is the first thing that need to be done. Or else, because I just quickly highlight there's one fact that's happening in Myanmar right now is even the Rohingya, I mean like before this, the Myanmar government or even the military always sideline Rohingya. They didn't recognize them as citizens. But when the military found out that they have not enough army to fight the war, they forced them, the conscription, to get them into military. Yeah, am I right? So this has to be condemned. It seems like they're just a subject for them, to fight for the war, right? So how about Sam, as a Kachin community? Yeah.
For Kachin people, that we are suffering wars for like more than 70 years, so we know how the military treat us. Since I was young, before I was born, the war was there already. So when I heard about that one start on the 2021 and February 1st, then in my mind that I thought that, okay, so the military, whatever that they wanted to do, they always do. So it's like the things happen again, it's also repeated their action. Now it's time to show the war. So what I thought is like, it will not be so easy to overcome, but then we have to fight for it again.
How about James?
Well, that's just, I'm like the past questions I'm going to say. Well, like, when we heard the news about the military coups, of course, we didn't know that like the thing's gonna take this long, and then also like these times, and also something that of course we all are very sad because like 21st century military coups in Asia, all right? So we never heard of that because like we knew about 88 uprisings and military coups and everything, like but then we're in like diaspora, we've been in Malaysia as a refugee for many years. And then, but like for us, we did not know this will take this long, and but then of course, we I'm gonna say like the citizens of Myanmar, we became like very helpless. But then somehow we all are at the same time we all are very frustrated, the way the military have been like treating us. Seeing the powers is undermining the powers of the peoples, and then also undermining the standpoints of its neighbor, right? And then it's the members of ASEAN. Seizing the power is like kind of undermining the policy of ASEAN and also UN. But then we've been I'm gonna say that it's like all the peoples of Myanmar, we've been knocking the door to UN, we've been knocking the door to ASEAN, but until today, International has failed to come up a concrete policy in this, like how to control. Even like the ASEAN doesn't have any policy to stop or like maybe to prevent the upcoming military coup among the members. So like if we look at now, they are not ready for that. Actually, I'm gonna say they are not ready. And at the same time, something that I really want to point it out is like I'm just gonna take it a little bit longer. Sometimes we talk about human rights. That's true. But that in Myanmar, currently we are not in human rights crisis. We are in political crisis. So in crisis, we have to think twice. Like two types of crisis. Number one is political crisis, and number two, human rights crisis. And in political crisis, what kind of human rights do we expect to be respected? Right? Because everybody's being killed, everyone's dying, bombings everywhere. In this time, should we gonna fight for human rights first, or should we gonna fight for peace and reconciliations and maybe like conflict resolutions in Myanmar first? Human rights that should be the topic in democracy country, not in a conflict area, not in like where a civil war is taking place. So sometimes I can feel that the pressure from NUGs they've been carrying through is that they've been asked, many people they've been asked about human rights, to focus on human rights and everything. But then there's a saying, there was a saying, there's no justice in war and love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right, the same thing we have to apply here. So if we really want to take something kind of like maybe like for ASEAN and UN also they have to come up a policy how to support Myanmar people to overcome this political crisis first. Under the guns and under the bomb, there's no values of human rights. There's no life of human rights. That's something that I want to highlight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James. So we talk about the struggles, we talk about the resistance, we even talk about how the military being cruel and a lot of atrocities that happen in Myanmar. But we also noticed that there's a case whereby the reports from Amnesty International talking about how the field was being sponsored, or not sponsored, being transferred to the military and used the field to fuel the jets and to kill the civilians. So, and part of it, we also know that ASEAN, some of the ASEAN government also being involved. So, Mahi, I just want to ask you, like, is there any solution on this, and how are we going to address this? How are we going to put the sanctions on this?
So the thing is, when you look at the companies, then you can't just look at the companies alone. You need to look at the supply chain as well, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, of course, civil society organizations can do intervention, can definitely intervene. We can have political campaigns. We can work with investigative journalists to look at, data, to look at the tracking reports. We can look at the money trail. The money trail is always important, right? 1MDB taught us that. So, of course, we can do all of that. And we can also pressure and lobby ASEAN parliamentarians as well, and especially Malaysian parliamentarians as well, to look at sanctions, targeted sanctions against company and the supply chain. By targeted sanctions, I'm talking about travel ban, for example, or the freezing of bank accounts. So we can do all of this. But the thing now is that how is the civil society going to do this? Because it's a lot of work, right? And it's not just looking at one thing, but it's actually coming up with a huge lot of a political campaign that's actually going to pressure people. We can also look at lobbying the regional, ASEAN as a regional group to come up with maybe a regulation or law that prohibits the flow of jet fuel to Myanmar, just like what the EU sanctions on Russian oils is, right? But the thing is, do we really have the funds to do that? Do we have the manpower to do that? Do we have the resources to do that? You know more than me that, even before Trump came into power, civil society organizations that were working on Myanmar, forced migration, labor migration, were already struggling with the lack of funds, the lack of resources, the lack of infrastructure, and now it's made worse. Let me give you an example. I've been trying really hard to go to MESOT to look at a small research on how the withdrawal of PEPFAR will actually affect refugees who are HIV positive. And what's going to happen, looking at a sample. I can't find 15 to 20,000 Malaysian ringgit to do that. Not taking a salary at all, just looking at the travel, the accommodation, paying the people there, paying for translation, paying a fixer in MESOT, for example. It's incredibly difficult. Now, why? Because yes, all of us look forward to a funding which extends to 5 years or 10 years because of sustainability, but we always also had access to small funds, little bit of money where we use little money to actually do great intervention on the ground. Now that fund is also completely frozen. So yes, I can give you a whole list of what we can do, not just to the companies, but also to the entire supply chain. We can come up with a platform where all the information is stored so that it creates awareness. People are aware of who are the companies, who are the stakeholders, but how are we going to do that?
Yeah, but we also find out that on the report itself, actually we find out that Thailand also, Singapore specifically, is the transfer of this fuel to the military junta. So right now Malaysia, we have the opportunity, we are the chair. What do you think we can do? I know that there are a lot of non-interference policy, but what we can do, or you can do some demands to the government. Yeah.
James is giving me the look, Mahi, don't mouth off, just, please don't be unhinged. No, the thing is, yes, Malaysia is the chair. Last year I was jumping with joy and telling everyone, hey, you know what, there's going to be intervention, things are going to be good, Malaysia is the way to go. I know Edmund talks about it, I know Raghu also talked about it, but the thing is, last year I was traveling a lot, and whether I was in Europe or in US or in UK, people came up to me and said, wow, look at your Prime Minister really, really talking about the Palestinian issue on a global front. And I was thinking, yes, it's great, but it does not translate into protection mechanism for the refugees, including the Palestinians on the ground. And when you look at the NUG, is NUG really a viable solution? I've always looked at the NUG and said, why is it that you do not have a stand when it comes to the Rohingya issue, for example? February 13th Thoughters made it very clear that NUG is incredibly biased. The Argentinian court came up with the arrest list for 25 individuals, including Aung San Suu Kyi. But acknowledging that would mean that they are alienating the supporters of Aung San Suu Kyi. Not acknowledging that means that they care a toss about the Rohingya rights. So Malaysia as the chair, what is it actually going to do? When we look at what's happening on the ground in Malaysia, you know, we have seen, unfortunately, the rise in racism and xenophobia over the last few years. We do not see any leadership from the elected representatives, ministers, let alone the Prime Minister, condemning the hate and violence against the refugee communities, particularly the Rohingya community. Until today, I cannot explain why there's that much hate and why the Rohingya are being singled out. I really have no idea, even though in every panel I'm asked this question. So the fact is the Malaysian Prime Minister now has to play a role where he has to satisfy the Malaysian public. And he also has a need to keep his words, because he did say that when he becomes the ASEAN Chair, he's going to look at the rights of the Rohingya. Yep. But how is he going to mitigate this? Is he going to mitigate it? You know, I don't see political will at all from the Malaysian government. Yes, I see ministers talking about, no, we need to give them the right to work. But, you know, if it is true, then they will look at existing legal framework, like the IMM 13 under the Immigration Act. Yes, we need to ratify the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. It's going to take us more than 10 years because it needs to be aligned with domestic laws. But do we really have the political will? I really don't think so. So how well is Malaysia going to do as the ASEAN Chair? I really don't know. I can only hope.
Yeah. And in fact, the majority is the Alliance of Hope, Pakatan Harapan, right? So let's hope that...
Pakatan Harapan was the one that actually denied access to UNHCR into immigration detention camps. 3 days ago, 532 Rohingya were arrested, 400 have UNHCR cards, but we can't even get them out because, hey, there's no access.
Yeah, so words to the government. Actions speak louder than words, yeah? Not just good slogans, okay? Anyway, so I will go back to Mr. Raghunath, because just now you also mentioned about like, we need to involve more people in the dialogue, especially the ethnicity minorities as well, because they are underrepresented, right? But we also know that actually in lots of discussion, especially, or a lot of official dialogue, it seems like not only the ethnicity minorities being cited, even the NUG wasn't being recognized as well as an official representative. So should Malaysia recognize NUG and other ethnicity minorities and put them in place, especially when we have a special envoy to Myanmar, we have a conversation to them. Yeah, how do you think?
I think this is SUHAKAM's position as well. NUG has to come up with a strong platform to say what does it stand for.
You're closer to.
And NUG has to come up with a platform to say what does it stand for. What is their position on Rohingyas? What are they looking for when they come into power, for instance? Is it an inclusive government? Or is it going to be as exclusive and exclude one group of people, like what Aung San Suu Kyi did? So if you want support from ASEAN, you want support from everyone, you must convince us that you are the rightful representative of the people. That's number one. Number two, I think having forums like this is very good, but the only issue I have is we are speaking to the converted.
Yeah.
Everyone here
same bubble.
Supports the position, right? We are no one here supports the junta. I think beyond this, what we should do is lobby the members of parliament. I mean, for whatever change you want, the voices of change must come from different stakeholders. Yeah? Not only CSOs, the politicians should be made aware, and it's our job, all of us, to approach them, to educate them on these are the issues that they need to understand. And if you want a solution, if everybody in Malaysia hates the migrants so much, and if you really want them to go home, find a solution in Myanmar, right? So if you put that into their heads to say that the solution for refugees in Malaysia is to ensure that their home country is safe for them. So if you can do that, I think that's a buy-in for everybody. That can be done. And in terms of ASEAN policy on Myanmar, you're talking about jet fuel, for instance. All the ASEAN countries are heavily invested in business in Myanmar, right?
Even wood processing, a lot of things. Yeah.
Everything, banks, what have you, everything is there, right? So to get a consensus from the governments of ASEAN to say that you want some form of sanction is nearly impossible. So the only way that can be done is to convince your parliament, your parliamentarians, in, say, the Malaysian parliament, to say, look, yes, if 1 or 10 members of parliament who are not part of the government stands up and say, what are we doing about Myanmar? What about the solution to the Rohingyas? Do they have a place in the NUG, for instance? These are questions that parliamentarians should ask. But our SUHAKAM's experience with parliamentarians is that if you don't reach out to them and knock their heads and shout into their ears, they will not understand anything.
Yeah,
so
right.
we have to work harder than this. If you, outside this room, maybe 3% of the people of Malaysia has heard of the 5-point consensus or the NUG. Who is NUG? What is the solution for NUG for Myanmar? So, although we are at the doorsteps of Myanmar, yet for us it's so distant and alien for us. That should not be the case, right? There's more awareness of the Palestinian issue than the Myanmar issue. So we need to ramp up the awareness programs for people who are outside this room.
Yeah, so a mission to everyone here. Yeah, next time when we do this kind of forum, share it widely to your friends, your colleagues, even those who doesn't understand the Myanmar issue. We need to expand our bubble. Yeah? Anyway, thank you. I like how you're being critical of the NUG because even though NUG keep on asking people to recognize them, but in fact they are not resolving among themselves, bringing all the ethnicity together, right? But anyway, there's one thing that's going to happen in this year, which is the election is going to come very soon in Myanmar, which military junta has said it before this, right? So, but we all know it's going to be a sham elections, whereby it's just a fake election, just to let the military junta to get back that legitimacy. So I want to ask all the panelists here, right? You, especially you as the Myanmar citizens, right? How do you see this, and what is your call to the governments all around the world? Right? How should we denounce it? How should we put a stop on this? Are you looking for a election as a solution, or you are looking at other peace resolutions? Yeah, please. Maybe we can start with James.
Okay, my questions to the international community on this election is that, are they going to continue condemning or just sanctions? Because yeah, like from international we said, do not recognize the military, do not recognize everything, do not recognize these things to the international communities and everything. But then until today, as they have mentioned, they still continue investing in their business. Despite there are so many calls for sanctions, like things still going on, like, you know, let's say, but like these elections, and for me what I can see is this election is the only hopes that the military Myanmar alliance has that exists in international, international image, because I think like he will do just maybe could be his escape too. Maybe like he will do elections and like he will just get someone his persons to be in his position and he will just step down. Maybe like or maybe he just he just want to be kind of playing a role like in try to escape from this pressure. So the same thing will go, but then like for minority ethnic groups like us, we never and we will never recognize these elections. The same thing, what we want from ASEAN, what we want from international community, please do not recognize these elections. And pressure them, unless, like they restore, they agree, they came up, even though they say, okay, no more like military coup, something kind of that, but like they must come up a concrete promise. Only then it will be like, something kind of, we can trust on them. Thank you.
Is it the same stance with you? Maybe you can elaborate more? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think ASEAN should take initiatives together, all ASEAN countries, along with other international bloc like European Union, telling the military government or giving the deadline, okay, we have no alternatives now. We have NUG. If you are not bringing the positive changes, then all the embassy should be closed, then transfer to the NUG. So in that way, they will be thinking seriously. Otherwise, they will just play politics. So it should be like Trump's way, how Trump ended the war in Ukraine in just 1 month. So ASEAN also can do that if they are very serious. So on the other hand, about the Rohingya issues, I just want to tell one of the American journalists, he was asking me about the NUG. So I was telling them NUG's struggle is very new, Rohingya struggle is more long time. So he was asking me what will happen. I said NUGs, their members are educated, academician, politician, they are very professional, unlike Rohingyas. But they will end up like Rohingyas. They cannot keep on struggling against the military. They are the huge Myanmar military is one of the biggest in Asia. And they have geopolitics back China, India, or even the Thailand back in the military. So what will happen? Will Myanmar people want military intervention? I know none of the Myanmar citizens will like foreign military intervention. But unlike Rohingya, if we have the chance to anybody ask if we want to military intervention, we will say yes, we want military intervention. It is not necessarily European or American or other say this is the Muslim problem, we don't want to involve. Yeah, we will find a solution for that. We are also Muslim, we are also part of the big community. We will not end up like this, genocide, killing, dying. Even in Malaysia, we end up in jails, illegal, migrant, whatever they're saying to us, it is beyond our bearing. We have a responsibility, you don't understand us. Why should we leave our village? We have our mosque, our ancestor graveyard there, our farmland there. How could we just leave this? We don't want it to live. It is a destiny. They are forcing to live, but nobody understands us. But things will not be like this forever. Thank you.
Thanks. How about Sam?
Okay, so my opinion is just very simple. How do we believe the people or a group that who are doing the terrorists all the time, and then talking about the peace? It's very simple. We can't trust. We are not trusting at all for the election that run by the military junta. It's never ever get the result that we like to get, and also the justice will not be there.
All right. So we'll go back to two of them, and then I will open the floor for everyone to ask the questions. So Mahi, just now I also seem you a bit disagree with what Rama said. Perhaps you can ask, is Trump the solution? I don't think, but you can.
Which
you can
Trump are we talking about? The evil one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, I totally do not agree with Myanmar holding elections. It's completely a no-no for me because it's a way of the military trying to legitimize power. This is nonsensical. And I must also say that, like what Raghu said, I thought that, the governments are coming together, with Malaysia especially, to say no to the elections. But then you had the foreign ministers meeting and a statement which called for inclusive elections and peace. I thought, what do you even mean by inclusive elections? It's redundant because it's military trying to say that we are trying to legitimize its power, trying to say that we are the rightful leaders of this country, and that's nonsensical. But having said that, James spoke about international community. Now, where we know that there have been sanctions, but there has been no coordinated way forward, largely because of China's role in geopolitics, China's relationship with the military, and also ASEAN's friendship with the military. So ASEAN is generally, this club where, it's like, all these old boys like, hey, hi, how are you? It's great, nice food, nice dinner, let's meet again next year. So I really think that in order for us to do something, ASEAN first and foremost should cut off its ties with the military. ASEAN needs to come together and say no to these elections. No, we will not legitimize your rule, and this has to end.
All right. So Raghunath, so on this elections, what is the sense of SUHAKAM? Perhaps you can also, how SUHAKAM will advise Malaysia to act? Yeah.
I think the position is clear that we are not in favor of the elections.
All right.
It is not conducive at all to have election. That's number one. I think number two, again, if you look at how difficult it is to cut off ties completely with military junta, for instance. Whatever you say, it is the recognized government per se at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you have to deal with it, if we appoint, say, Tan Sri Osman Hashim is the special envoy, I mean, who is he going to deal with? So if we stop all relations with Myanmar, for instance, or even expel Myanmar from ASEAN, you still have China and India to deal with. Myanmar will still survive. That's the problem we have. So I think the aim is to shame Myanmar and at the same time support the CSOs. I think perhaps one solution is to work closer with the CSOs in Myanmar and outside Myanmar, support by the government through backdoor channels, giving aid, supporting the refugees, working with alternatives within the CSOs outside Myanmar, and recognizing these bodies as bodies that you can work with. For instance, I mean, US has lots of dealings with Taiwan despite not recognizing Taiwan. So what's the difficulty with recognizing and working with the CSOs outside Myanmar? Yeah, that can be done. And you can even, we should actually continue to dialogue with NUG, criticize them, tell them, hey, we want, what is your plan for Myanmar, for instance? So that can be done.
Yeah.
So I think the position we should take is to, if to cut off completely, I think it's going to be difficult. It is my view and SUHAKAM's view. SUHAKAM is fully supportive of the appointment of Tan Sri Osman Hashim, definitely, we do. And I think that's a very positive step that I think is important, a credible person to take the lead.
Yeah.
And the position would be to ask Myanmar, what is your plan? How are you dealing with all these issues, right? We have the same problem, even at the level of human rights bodies within ASEAN. Thailand has a fantastic record for human rights, the Thai Human Rights Commission, except for Myanmar, right? So it's so difficult that, can you imagine that you are a human rights organization recognized to do human rights work, and yet when it comes to Myanmar, we can't even find a consensus.
Sure.
That's shocking, isn't it? So that's what we are dealing with. So it's a paradox in a way, but at the same time, we cannot walk away from this situation. Walking away from the problem would be walking away from the people of Myanmar.
Right. Thanks, Raghunath. Round of applause. Yeah. So this is our first round of the panels. So, but I'll open to the floor. Any questions from the floor? One ask. Yes, I saw one hand. Let's get three. 1, 2, 3. Any more? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Behind there. There, please. Right. Yeah, it's enough. Let's keep the 3 mics at here. Yeah, it's enough. Yeah. All right. Please address yourself and yeah.
Hi, my name is Wei Wei, and I'm an NHRI program officer from Forum Asia. Forum Asia is the secretariat for ANI. ANI is the Asian NGO network for NHRIs. We are a membership-based network working towards strengthening NGOs across the Asian region. So we're a network of CSOs and HRDs from across the region. So I would first like to say thank you to our moderator and panelists for the very rich discussion. I have 2 questions related to the MNHRC. My questions are directed at the Honorable SUHAKAM Commissioner. You mentioned that within the CNF, the NHRC Thailand strongly opposes the idea of kicking MNHRC out. Would you be able to share with us what their official reasoning is? This is because as a network, we are working with our Myanmar CSO colleagues to strongly advocate to APF, the Asia Pacific Forum for NHRIs, as well as CNF, to immediately terminate the membership of MNHRC. So it's important for us to know what the barriers are currently so that we can work around with our advocacy. Secondly, now that the Global Alliance for NHRI, GANRI, Subcommittee for Accreditation, GANRI SCA, has decisively removed the accreditation of the MNHRC and will soon officially remove its membership from GANRI. APF will also soon follow suit by terminating MNHRC's membership. Would this make it easier for CNF to reach consensus in terminating MNHRC's membership in CNF?
All right.
And just one last thing.
Quick one. Yeah, please.
I would also, on behalf of ANI Forum Asia, I just want to acknowledge how supportive SUHAKAM, the Commission on Human Rights Philippines, PDHJ Timor-Leste, the NHRI for Timor-Leste, have been to the Myanmar Solidarity Movement. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So before we proceed to the second questions, may I invite those who are standing behind, you can sit in front because some of them are left. So make sure that you have comfortable seats, yeah? Yeah, please do. Please address yourself and let's keep it in 1 minute because we have more to come, yeah? All right, please do.
Good evening. My name is Sadiq. I'm from Myanmar Diaspora community, so just working for the Myanmar people. Just my questions. Myanmar election is actually this is a sham election they are preparing. For the sham elections, we have to do a lot of work. So today we have to understand the stance of the ASEAN country, and we need civil society organizations in outside of Myanmar to be more stronger than today. For in this case, what kinds of support would come from ASEAN country to empower Myanmar civil society organization and individuals to topple Myanmar military in Burma? This is my question.
Right, thank you. Short and sweet. Right, now next person. And yeah, I believe, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is not a question, but a request. Now, a lot of raid has been going on, and we heard that these people are going to send back to Burma. And it is, at this time, I would request ASEAN countries not to send these people back because none of them reached their home. Instead, they got to the military base camp, and then they were trained, and then they were sent to the killing fields. And then they are doing this, sending these people as a human shield. So I would like to request that, mention this in the ASEAN forum, and then not to send these people back at this moment.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I agree with you. In fact, I think this is what CSO in Malaysia, even trade unions, has been always mentioned about this. We need to settle them at here first before the conflict has been resolved in Myanmar, or else you are just sending people into the killing field. I agree with you. Yeah. So let's. Any more questions? If not, we'll just go around. But just a quick questions a quick question to everyone. So first, you as a diaspora community, right? And we have diplomats here. We have CSO. We have general audience from Malaysia here. What is your call to these people? What do you hope something can be resolved, right? You as the refugee community in Malaysia, at the same time, and you as the Myanmar citizens, and take the opportunity where currently Malaysia is the chair of ASEAN. Yes, please, we just go around here.
Yeah, I'm just telling the Myanmar people to strive for unity and accept their diversity and struggle for democracy and human rights. So Myanmar is a very rich resource country. So if there is a democracy, stability, and human rights, Myanmar can be one of the richest country in the world. Yeah.
So for me, it's like I would like to request that just now the sister told, the sister share about that, the arresting people, like when they are in the operacy or something like that, they arrested, and also without any like legal proceeds and legal, any due legal process, and then they were straightway sent to Myanmar. So it is, I just like to saying that, because it's like they're happening, the procedure like this is helping the military junta to get power, the recruitment to get from the outside of the country. Because it's like, even though now the conscription law is also affected to the many women and the ladies and the youngsters of the girls and all that. So it's like, they are also like, whenever we were sent back, it's definitely going to the battlefields with no reasons. Just, hello, I want to use my language like, so it's mean that just you follow me for a while, it's forever. So it's like, please don't send them to our country. If they do the crime here, okay, never mind, without any other request, and you can send them back to our country. But for those who are staying here, just only a reason with the undocumented, please don't send them. And also, if there is a chance, maybe we would like to get the Malaysian as a chair of the ASEAN to protect us while we are here as well. And also for the educational, just please channel us to make it happen as like we could be able to study tertiary education as much as we can, as we are also like many students getting older and we have very less chance for the tertiary education because very less schools are like accepting us because of our status and all that. So I would like to request for our children's education for the future so that they can, when the country is getting better, we can go back and serve the war with our country beautifully as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I just would like to, remind the international community and the United Nations and then also ASEAN, learn from Myanmar. I know the military coup happened while they were not ready. So when the things happen, they have no policy. So they do not know how to respond it. So they have no any mechanisms to prevent and stop this thing. And then also like any economics and the business sectors that deal with, and also any country that invests in Myanmar currently, remember that they are shaking their hand with, they are shaking their hands with the hands half-blooded. And then also, the other things that also like for ASEAN, these times, I want them to come, I want them have, a policy that control their neighbors. Because when you have a violence and a criminal neighbors, I know even your house is not safe. The same things go to like the country. So you can't just ignore the crisis that's happening in Myanmar. You can't just say that this is none of my business. These neighbors, especially like if you look at Thailand, India, and China, and then Malaysia and everywhere, you are bearing the results of the crisis over there. So you cannot run away from this crisis. So you are also somehow, even though you want it or you don't want it, you still have responsibility to control this. Because sometimes you have to knock the door and, hey, stop fighting. You have to tell these people. So this is something that I want to tell you is that please do not, turn your back to Myanmar. Because this is, our problem is your problems too. Today, this thing happened in our country. It could be the next day in your country, in your house. So before that, ASEAN and United Nations, every country, they must be ready. Any international organization must be ready to prevent the upcoming, not to spread this disease, this political disease to another places. Thank you so much.
Mahi, and also you can share about, especially you're also working on refugee issues. So you can talk about that as well.
My asks to Malaysia as a government and the ASEAN Chair is to start looking at the ratification of the 1951 UN Refugee Convention and the 67 protocols, and while it's at it, to actually look at ensuring that refugees can work because of the IMM 13 under Immigration Act, and to then expand this to include access to structured education and affordable healthcare. Number two, to abide by customary international law, particularly the non-refoulement principle, which says that you cannot afford to send someone back to a place where there's a likelihood of them being persecuted. And third, to actually have a moratorium on immigration raids, because there are just one too many raids every week, and to allow UNHCR access to immigration detention centers. And also for the regional body to actually look at a comprehensive protection mechanism for survivors of conflict-related sexual violence. I think this is really important.
Right, thank you. Mr. Ragunath?
I'll just answer the issue raised. I think the biggest problem we have is, again, the constitution of CNF. There's no provision for expelling anyone. And also in relation to the issues of even suspending a party. So what we have done is to amend the rules. So that's where we have lots of objections from Thailand. The reason being that as ASEAN, it should be consensus. So if there's any objection from anyone, we should not move forward on that. That was the biggest objection they had. So on that basis, that's how Myanmar still sits in CNF.
All right.
I just want to quickly add, the sister there, she actually spoke about her request to not deport people. Well, I have a semblance of a good news for you. The civil society organizations have been having rounds of conversations and negotiations, discussions together to come up with a SOP, a standard operating procedure that will then be channeled to YB Wong Chen for him to take it up to the government. And this is about the about the non-refoulement principle, ensuring that people are not deported back. So yeah, I really hope something good comes out of it.
Yeah. So I think we have come to the end of the discussion, but I'll just quick summary, because I think Myanmar issue has been there for decades. It's not only happened in 2021, right, the military coup. It happened way before, whereby the ethnicity was, minorities was being sidelined, being marginalized. That the government, even in Shashuki was in power, it doesn't really address the minorities problem, right? And conflicts keep on happening between the ethnicity. So this is what, when we want the resolutions, it's not just rejecting military, but we want a real one whereby we can resolve this kind of conflict, right? But I think we can represent the refugee communities. The appeal is like, especially in Malaysia or in other countries, you must recognize them as the most vulnerable community here, right? Yeah, so you need to recognize them as the refugee, and then allow them to stay here. Don't send them back to the battlefield, because the result is that they might just be killed. Am I right? Yeah. This is the first thing, right? And then second, I think there need to be more coordinations between the governments. Malaysia, we seize the opportunity. We as the ASEAN Chair, we should also facilitate more dialogues. And the dialogues need to include all of the ethnicity minorities. Am I right? Yeah. So this is why we, you say, also that's been critical about, we need to, we ask them to accept NUG, etc. But NUG has also need to accept the minorities as well. They shouldn't put them aside, right? So this is some callings to them. So last but not least, I think we need to be more coordinated. We as the citizens, we as the crowd, the general crowd, maybe you think you cannot do much, but I think just now Mr. Ragunath had gave us an aspiration. We should do more, right? Try to expand our bubbles. Yes, it's uncomfortable when we try to speak someone that doesn't have the same stance with us, same point of view with us, but we need to tell them why they need to be taken care of or being concerned about Myanmar issue. Talk with your parliamentarian, talk to them. If talk with the CSO, ask less CSO, we can do more coordinations and we can pursue further on this issue. And it shouldn't be just stay in this discussion. Can we do that? Yes. Can we do that? Yes. So let's do this. Give us a round of applause and thank you to the speakers. Yeah, please remain seated. So let's invite Calvin as the chief of KLSHA Youth to give the token of appreciation to the speakers. Thank you them for their presence. Right? Round of applause to them. Okay. I will do this out. And just shake hand. Yeah. Because Ramagunam is also from SUHAKAM, right? Yeah. Yeah. All right, may I invite all speakers, and together with Calvin, we can stand up together and also to take a group photo.
And together with Yanka.
Together with me, of course. Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please go to your seat. Yeah, let's invite the speakers to go back to the seat. This is yours, yeah? Remember? All right, thank you. All right, everyone, don't go back yet because we still have give us another 30 minutes, yeah? We are going to settle this, yeah? So because currently we are entered to a more important agenda, which is a solidarity ceremony. Yep. So before we go to that place, I will just give a brief introductions about BWI because I'm putting off my head, my hats on as a moderator. All right. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, next slide. Oh, the slide before. Huh? All right. While we are waiting for the slides, there's a demands on from Building and Woodworkers International. Perhaps I can quickly brief you about this. So first of all, just for information, because this is the first time you heard about Building and Woodworkers International. So Building and Woodworkers International, we are a global union federations. We have 361 affiliates all around the world, in a lot of countries, and I'm based in Asia Pacific. So in fact, Building and Woodworkers International, we have represent 12 million workers from constructions, building materials, and also even from the wood and forestry sectors. But even though we are workers, but we are also very concerned about the issue of Myanmar because our members, the workers, are the one being impacted the most. They lost their incomes, they lost their job opportunities, etc. And some of them, they are being forced to do the forced labor work, right? A lot of things the trade union leaders are in exile, some of them being killed, some of them being hunted, witch hunted. A lot of things happen to our members. But all of it is also about the humanitarian crisis. So this is why we need to give more concern about this. So this is about what BWI is doing, but these are key demands that we are asking the governments to do, and you as the general audience as well. So the first is to enforce the ILO Article 33. And this is very important because ILO, International Labour Organization, has already deployed the Commission of Inquiry to Myanmar to do the investigation. And they found out a lot of findings about the sexual violence, about the forced labor, prison forced labor, and even what we call the forced military conscriptions. This is what's happening inside. And the unions cannot functioning properly. And this is what's happening, right? The freedom of association is being violated. So ILO Article 33 is is very important is upcoming June. Yeah, there's going to have an international labor conference in Geneva. So we hope that the governments, the trade unions, and also the employers can all agree to invoke the Article 33 of Myanmar to start the procedure on the sanction, economic sanction, etc. Right? And this already happened in 10 years ago, decades ago, right, on Myanmar. So this is not new. So we hope that you can do this. And then we need to counter the sham election. I did no need to explain too much because we all know that it's illegitimate. It's just a tool for the government, the military government to legitimize themselves. So we need to counter this, and we need to suspend the Myanmar Human Rights Commissions from CNF. But I also acknowledge that currently the process is a bit difficult because there's no any provision, and we all talk about consensus. But we hope that SUHAKAM and other Human Rights Commission in ASEAN can discuss about this, find a procedure, find a way, because we cannot let MHRC to become the whitewashing tool on the authority of Myanmar military junta. So also we want to expose and also oppose the fake union, because currently CTUM, which is Confederation Trade Union Myanmar, representing the workers in Myanmar, they have been always the voice and the forefront of this struggle and fight for the workers and also the people of Myanmar. But the problem here is, in order to respond to the reports of ILO Commission of Inquiry, they decide to form a fake unions, saying that actually we already addressed to the unions, we try to resolve the problems of the violations of freedom of associations, but that is totally, I want to say the word, but it's completely ridiculous, right? It shouldn't be that way. So we need to oppose this kind of fake unions that give legitimacy back to the military junta. And then, last but not least, we need to continue the International Solidarity Fund for Myanmar, for the refugees, for Myanmar, for the diaspora community, and for the people in Myanmar, right? And we all know that currently the funding situation in all around the world, especially after US has pulling out the funds, the US AID, is also impacted the people of Myanmar. So we hope that ASEAN, especially, we can take a more progressive point of view to continue the International Solidarity Fund for Myanmar. Thank you everyone.
Panelists, moderator, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights. And it's very important, that's what we see the solidarity for Myanmar cause, and for discussing way to accelerate the process of establishing democratic unions of Myanmar. And I hope that these conversations will continue beyond today, and inspiring each attendee to take actions toward peace, democracy, and federal union and justice in the regions. Let us not just keep the words here, let us spread out the words as what we have heard from the moderator and also from the panelists. It's important for us to reach out to our zones, to reach out to other people who have not heard about Myanmar issues in the region. Next, I would like to start with the solidarity ceremony. It's at the final part of our program agenda. We will now move to the solidarity ceremony, and please join me in giving a warm round of applause to welcome Sothat Deng, representative of Myanmar Affairs Alliance, to deliver a short speech.
But we can move to the next one.
No?
Is it?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard for us to share. Yeah, but you can mention about that.
Yeah. No. My two men.
Yeah, you can. No problem. Okay. Yeah, please, you can start, please.
It's working.
အားလုံးမင်္ဂလာညနေခင်းပါခင်ဗျနည်းနည်းလောက်မြင့်ပေးအောင်နဲ့အနောက်ကโอเคတာကြီးမြင့်လဲအကြာကြီးကန်ရမှာဆိုရင်ညောင်းသွားမယ်လေโอเคရပြီနော်နည်းနည်းလေးချရင်ကောင်းโอเคအခုကနည်းညီအောင်ချလိုက်โอเคအားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါခင်ဗျဒီခန်းသားကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တက်ရောက်ပြီးတော့မှပါဝင်ခွင့်ရတဲ့အတွက်ကျေးဇူးအထူးတင်ပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်ကတော့စိုးထက်သိန်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီခန်းသားမှာစကားလာပြောတဲ့အစီအစဉ်ကိုတော့မြန်မာ Affairs Alliance ရဲ့ကိုယ်စားလှယ်အနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်စကားတက်ရောက်ပြောကြားခွင့်ရတာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ခင်ဗျရှေ့မှာအားလုံးဆွေးနွေးသွားကြတဲ့တင်ပြသွားကြတဲ့အတိုင်းပဲကျွန်တော်တို့နိုင်ငံမှာဖြစ်ပျက်နေတဲ့အဖြစ်အပျက်တွေဒီအဖြစ်အပျက်တွေမှာအဆိုးဝါးဆုံးအဖြစ်အပျက်တွေကအစုလိုက်အပြုံလိုက်လူမျိုးသုံးတပ်ဖြတ်မှုတွေဒီအစုလိုက်အပြုံလိုက်လူမျိုးသုံးတပ်ဖြတ်မှုတွေကိုအကျူးလွန်ခံနေရတာကမြန်မာပြည်သူပြည်သားအလုံးဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကရင်တစ်မျိုးတည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးမွန်တစ်မျိုးတည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးတိုင်းရင်းသားအစုအဖွဲ့တစ်မျိုးတည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးရိုဟင်ဂျာတစ်မျိုးတည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးအစုလိုက်အပြုံလိုက်လူမျိုးသုံးတပ်ဖြတ်မှုတွေ2021ခုနှစ်နွေဦးတော်လှန်ရေးကနေစပြီးတော့မှဒီနေ့အချိန်ထိကိုစစ်အာဏာရှင်နဲ့အပေါင်းပါတွေကကျူးလွန်နေကြတာဖြစ်တယ်ရိုဟင်ဂျာတွေခံစားခဲ့ရတယ်လို့ပဲတိုင်းရင်းသားတွေလည်းခံစားနေကြရတာဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုပဲဗမာလူမျိုးတွေလည်းခံစားနေကြရတာဖြစ်တယ်အခုဒီအစုလိုက်အပြုံလိုက်အသက်ဖြတ်ခံရမှုတွေမှာလူမျိုးစုတစ်စုနဲ့တစ်စုအပြစ်တင်ပုံချနေုံနဲ့စစ်အာဏာရှင်ကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တိုက်ဖြတ်မှုအောင်မြင်သွားမှာမဟုတ်ဘူးစစ်အာဏာရှင်တွေမရှိမှအခုလိုလူမျိုးသုံးတပ်ဖြတ်မှုတွေချုပ်ငြိမ်းသွားမှာဖြစ်တယ်လူမျိုးစုရဲ့အခွင့်အရေးတွေကိုကာကွယ်နိုင်မှာဖြစ်တယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့အဓိကဘုံကြီးမှန်းချက်ကစစ်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်အပီးတိုင်ချုပ်ငြိမ်းရေးကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တွားရမှာဖြစ်တယ်တယောက်နဲ့တယောက်အပြစ်တင်နေရမှာမဟုတ်ဘူးဒီနေရာမှာကျွန်တော်တို့အနေနဲ့ပြက်ပြက်သားသားပြောချင်တာရှိပါတယ်အမေတော်အောင်ဆန်းစုကြည်အပါအဝင်တမရကြီးဦးဝင်းမြင့်မြန်မာဒီမိုကရေစီအရေးအတွက်အကြိမ်ဖန်များစွာနှစ်ကာလများစွာစစ်ရန်တရားရဲ့ချထားတဲ့အကျဉ်းထောင်ထဲမှာပေးဆက်ခဲ့ကြတာဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုမျိုးပေးဆက်ခဲ့ရင်းနဲ့အနှဲငယ်သောဒီမိုကရေစီကိုစောင့်ကျဉ်ပေးခဲ့တဲ့ခေါင်းဆောင်တွေလည်းဖြစ်တယ်အခုဒီခေါင်းဆောင်တွေကိုအာဂျင်တီးနားတရားရုံးကနေပြီးတော့မှလူမျိုးသုံးတပ်ဖြတ်မှုနဲ့အရေးယူထားမှုကိုကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာအတိုင်းဝိုင်းအနေနဲ့အပြင်းထန်ကန့်ကွက်တယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းဒီနေရာကနေအတိအလင်းကြေညာခြင်းပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ခေါင်းဆောင်တွေကအခုအချိန်ထိဒီမိုကရေစီအရေးလူနည်းစုအခွင့်အရေးအတွက်ထောင်ထဲမှာကြံ့ကြံ့ခံပြီးတော့မှရင်ဆိုင်ပေးဆက်နေတာဖြစ်ပါတယ်လူမျိုးသုံးတပ်ဖြတ်မှုတွေကိုကျူးလွန်နေတဲ့လူယုံမာတွေနဲ့တဒန်းနဲ့ထားတာမျိုးကိုကျွန်တော်တို့အပြင်းအထန်ကန့်ကွက်တယ်နောက်တစ်ခုအနေနဲ့တမျိုးသားလုံးလွတ်မြောက်ရေးဆိုတဲ့အနေအထားမှာလူမျိုးစုအလိုက်မျိုးနွယ်စုအလိုက်အုပ်စုအလိုက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ဟာကိုယ့်ရဲ့လွတ်မြောက်ခွင့်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့အခွင့်အရေးကိုကိုယ်တိုင်တိုက်ယူရမှာဖြစ်တယ်ဒီနေ့အချိန်ထိကျွန်တော်တို့ဆင်နွှဲလာရတဲ့2021နွေဦးတော်လှန်ရေးမှာတန်ခင်းတမန်ခင်းအားဖြင့်နိုင်ငံကြီးတွေကနေပြီးတော့မှပံ့ပိုးကူညီမှုတွေရှိပံ့ပိုးတန်တမန်ရေးရပံ့ပိုးကူညီမှုတွေရှိနေပေမဲ့ကိုထိလက်ရောက်အားဖြင့်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကိုအတူတချောင်းတော်မှာကူညီနေတာမရှိပါဘူးဒီလိုအနေထားမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့လွတ်မြောက်ခွင့်အတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကိုယ်တိုင်တိုက်ယူရမှာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့မှကျွန်တော်တို့လူမျိုးစုတွေလွတ်မြောက်ဖို့အတွက်ကိုလူမျိုးတွေကိုယ်တိုင်ဘလို့တိုက်ပွဲဝင်နေတော့ဒီနေရာမှာကျွန်တော်အနေနဲ့ဖိတ်ခေါ်ချင်တာကရိုဟင်ဂျာညီအကိုတွေကိုယ်တိုင်စစ်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်လက်အောက်ကနေပြီးတော့မှလွတ်မြောက်ဖို့အတွက်ဘလို့တိုက်ပွဲဝင်ကူညီနေတော့ဆိုတာကိုကျွန်တော်တို့အနေနဲ့မေးခွန်းထုတ်เสียဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုပဲနောက်တစ်ခုအနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့စစ်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်အမြင့်အပြတ်ခြေမုံရေးတိုက်ပွဲတွေမှာရိုဟင်ဂျာညီကိုတွေအပါအဝင်ကျန်တဲ့တိုင်းရင်းသားညီကိုတွေနဲ့ဗမာတွေအတူတူစုပေါင်းပြီးတော့မှစစ်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်အမြင့်ပြတ်ခြေမုံရေးအောင်ပွဲအထိကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တိုက်ခိုက်ယူရမှာဖြစ်တယ်အခုလိုမျိုးမလေးရှားနိုင်ငံမှာကျွန်တော်တို့စုယုံပြီးတော့မှမြန်မာအရေးကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာအရေးနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့မှမြန်မာလူမျိုးတွေခံစားနေရတဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒဏ်ရာဒဏ်ချက်တွေကိုဖော်ထုတ်ခွင့်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့လိုလားမှုတွေကိုတောင်းဆိုခွင့် ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြုတ်ပေးတဲ့ INGO တွေ local NGO တွေနဲ့ဒီနိုင်ငံတာဝန်ရှိသူတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့အနေနဲ့ကျေးဇူးအထူးတင်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံအရေးမှာဖြစ်ပျက်နေတဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့အာဏာသိမ်းမှုကကျွန်တော်တို့ကယောဂတစ်ခုလိုဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကမ္ဘာကြီးပေါ်မှာတဖြည်းဖြည်းကူးဆက်လာတဲ့အနေအထားမျိုးကိုလည်းတွေ့ရတယ်အနောက်နိုင်ငံကြီးတွေမှာလည်းတနိုင်ငံနဲ့လေးစားမှုကျွန်တော်တို့ရောနေလာတာတွေ့ရတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုပဲကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမိုကရေစီဖွံ့ဖြိုးမှုအားနည်းနေတဲ့အာရှမှာလည်းဒီလိုအရေးအယောင်တွေကျွန်တော်တို့တွေ့ရပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီအရေးအယောင်တွေကအင်အားကြီးတဲ့လူကနိုင်စဒန်းအင်အားငယ်တဲ့လူတွေကိုထင်ရပြုတ်စဒန်းဆိုတဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့တောရိုင်းဥပဒေစံလာပါတယ်ဒီလိုတောရိုင်းဥပဒေစံလာတာကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ခင်မီဖွံ့ဖြိုးပြီးဖြစ်တဲ့လူသားမျိုးနွယ်စုအနေနဲ့အပြင်းထန်ကာကွယ်ရမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာပြည်ထဲမှာလက်ရှိခံစားနေရတဲ့စစ်ဘေးဒုက္ခတွေနိုင်ငံရင်းဒုက္ခတွေ CDM တွေနိုင်ငံသားကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ထွက်ပြေးရောက်ရှိလာတဲ့အခါမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမလေးရှားကနေပြီးတော့မှကျွန်တော်တို့အသင့်ဖွဲ့စည်းထားတဲ့ community တွေနဲ့နိုင်ငံက local NGO တွေ INGO တွေရဲ့ကူညီပေးမှုတွေကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့ကျေးဇူးတင်အတိအမှတ်ပြုပါတယ်နောက်တစ်ခုကစစ်ကောင်စီကိုဆက်လက်ရှင်တန်မှုအတွက်ထောက်ပံ့နေတဲ့အရာတွေကိုတားဆီးပိတ်ပင်မှုတွေမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ boycott လုပ်တဲ့ campaign တွေမှာအားလုံးပါဝင်ပေးကြဖို့အတွက်ကိုကျွန်တော်ဒီနေရာနေပြီးတော့မှအနူးညွတ်မြတ်တာရက်ခံပါတယ်အားလုံးကိုကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ခင်ဗျ
Thank you so much, Suta Ting, for your remark. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Kevin Lee, Chief of Kuala Lumpur Selangor Chinese Assembly Hall, KLSCAH Youth Sections, to the stage for his solidarity speech.
Good evening. Okay, good evening, everyone. So I'll skip the formalities. Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather in solidarity with the people of Myanmar, who for the past 4 years have endured unimaginable suffering under the brutal rule of the military junta. Since the coup in 2021, the people of Myanmar have shown extraordinary courage in their fight for democracy, justice, and freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kuala Lumpur and Selangor Chinese Assembly Hall is an organization that upholds the values of democracy and human rights. And as a board member and the chief of the youth section, I pledge our unwavering support to the democratic movement in Myanmar. We are ready to stand with the people of Myanmar, and we will not be silent as they continue their fight for justice. The military junta has waged a war against its own people, and the people of Myanmar have spoken. The 2020 election is a clear sign that the people rejected the military rule. It is important that we stand united against the unjust. Today, the junta's hands are stained with the blood of innocent civilians, men, women, and children who have fallen victims to airstrikes, mass executions, and systemic oppressions. The junta have committed war crimes, crimes against humanity, and gross violations of human rights. And yet, despite doing all this, they are losing their grip on power. Desperate to maintain control, they now seek legitimacy through what critics call a sham election. This is an election designed not to restore democracy, but to deceive the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not democracy. This is not legitimacy. This is an insult to the people of Myanmar who have already rejected the military's rule. For too long, Myanmar's neighbors, particularly the ASEAN countries, the approach in addressing this conflict has fallen short. ASEAN's 5-point consensus has neither stopped the junta's violence nor brought Myanmar closer to peace. Meanwhile, the people continue to suffer. If persuasive methods are not working, this is the moment for ASEAN to act decisively. Stop legitimizing the junta. Increase pressure through coordinated sanctions, and also deploy and provide humanitarian aid, not through the junta, but directly through the communities in need. Today ASEAN has a choice to be remembered as an enabler of the military dictatorship or as a force for justice. Ladies and gentlemen, the suffering does not stop at Myanmar's borders. Millions have been forced to flee, displaced within their own country or seeking refuge abroad. Families are torn apart, entire communities are uprooted. To those in exile, to those seeking refuge, including in our country, Malaysia, to those surviving in refugee camps, you are not forgotten. And we stand with you in your right to return home, to live with dignity, and to reclaim the future that was stolen from you. The people of Myanmar have shown to the world that the spirit of democracy cannot be crushed by guns or oppression. Their struggle is a testament to a power of resistance. But solidarity is more than just words. It is action, it is pressure, it is refusing to recognize the junta's rule. It is amplifying the voices of those who have been silenced. It is standing beside the people of Myanmar, not just today, but until their freedom is won. Myanmar's fight is not their own. It is a fight for justice, for democracy, for human dignity. Last but not least, to the people of Myanmar, your courage inspires the world. Your fight is not forgotten, and together we will see a day when your country is free. Freedom will come. Democracy will come. Free Myanmar. Long live the spirit of democracy. Thank you. Free.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kevin, for your unwavering support and the solidarity remarks for the political struggle of the people of Myanmar. Now, let's welcome Ms. Nico Fong, Research and Advocacy Officer, Amnesty International Malaysia, to give a brief solidarity speech. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Nicole from Amnesty International Malaysia, and I'm here to speak about I'm here on the 4-year anniversary speaking about the military coup and urging the international community, including Malaysia, to take urgent action and to hold perpetrators accountable for atrocities in Myanmar. This year represents a turning point for accountability in Myanmar. While the military remains in control, they are losing ground in many areas. Amid rapidly evolving hostilities and shifting political dynamics, renewed efforts must push for justice and a future rooted in human rights. Since the 2021 coup, Myanmar's military junta has killed more than 6,000 people, arbitrarily detained over 20,000, and resumed judicial executions. More than 3.5 million people have been displaced. Human rights groups have documented the military's torture of detainees, indiscriminate attacks, and the blocking of humanitarian aid, actions that may amount to crimes against humanity and war crimes. The junta has carried out systematic attacks on civilians, bombing schools, hospitals, and religious sites with impunity. While some have pledged accountability, it remains to be seen whether these efforts are genuine and meet international standards. And in 2024, violence against the Rohingya community reached its worst level since 2017, with families killed in bombings as they remained trapped between Myanmar's military and the Arakan army in Rakhine State. And just last month, the abrupt US aid suspension put millions at risk, cutting off crucial support for displaced communities facing severe food insecurity. This decision comes as humanitarian needs reach unprecedented levels, while the military continues to weaponize aid by blocking assistance to conflict-affected areas. Amnesty International urges all parties to the conflict to uphold international humanitarian law and engage with justice mechanisms, including the independent investigative mechanism for Myanmar. All countries, especially ASEAN and Malaysia, must increase pressure on the junta by blocking arms shipments, suspending aviation fuel supplies, the report that Yanka mentioned, and supporting international justice mechanisms. ASEAN must move beyond its failed 5-point consensus and take decisive action to hold the junta accountable. A coordinated long-term international justice strategy is essential. And the upcoming UN Human Rights Council session from the 24th February to 4th April presents a really critical opportunity. UN member states, including Malaysia, must take bold action to break the cycle of impunity for atrocity crimes and amplify the voices of survivors, activists, and the people of Myanmar who continue to resist at great personal risk. Myanmar's crisis did not begin with the coup. Decades of oppression have led to this moment, and ending impunity requires bold action and sustained political and financial equipment. The world must act now. Thank you very much. That's all the time I have.
Thank you so much for your powerful words of solidarity, Ms. Nicole Fong. Now, I would like to pass the time to Ms. Christina from Amnesty International Malaysia, who will lead us the paper-playing solidarity actions. Let us welcome her to the stage.
Hi, can we play the video first? Sorry, technical issues. We'll be back shortly. Something with the audio. But thank you all for still being here. I think there are about 80 of you. If you would like, please do get some tea, some refreshments while we wait. Maybe while we're waiting, my colleagues, can we pass around the colored paper and pens to those in attendance while we're waiting for the video? Thank you so much.
Myanmar's military airstrikes have killed dozens of civilians since launching a coup last year. Victims include school children and families killed while sleeping in their homes. But how is an increasingly isolated military, condemned around the world, getting jet fuel? To find out, we looked through leaked documents, satellite images, and vessel tracking data. We spoke to defectors of the Myanmar Air Force and sources close to energy companies. And we bring you the most complete picture to date of how international corporations have played a part in supplying aviation fuel to Myanmar. Myanmar's fuel is mostly, if not entirely, imported. It is transported through ports and storage facilities before making its way to civilian airports and military bases. At the center of the story is the company Puma Energy and its Myanmar affiliates, which have played a role in almost every step of the supply chain. At the port where jet fuel first arrives by ship from across Asia, a company wholly owned by Puma Energy handles the fuel on arrival. Another local company, paid by Puma's affiliate, then transports fuel to storage facilities and air bases across Myanmar. Using satellite imagery, leaked company invoices, and spreadsheets of tracked deliveries shared exclusively with Amnesty International, we were able to track fuel delivery to 20 storage facilities at commercial airports and military air bases. Through sources on the ground and interviews with Air Force defectors, we then linked 4 of these air bases to airstrikes that amount to war crimes. One of these air bases is used for attacks on Cayenne State, where in February this year, a farmer's house was bombed in the middle of the night, killing the husband and wife of the family in their sleep. But Puma is not alone. At the port of entry, we tracked shipments of fuel that were offloaded and confirmed 4 of the suppliers. Vessel tracking data implicates a 5th one. Companies say that these shipments complied with sanction laws. They also explained that the fuel was for civilian purposes. But in reality, this is not always the case. Even if it is the intention, the risk of diversion to the military is very high. Leaked letters revealed that 2 shipments of fuel went to the Myanmar Air Force. In September this year, we presented our evidence to companies involved. 10 days later, Puma Energy announced they would leave the country and sell its business. It admitted that its Myanmar affiliate could not stop fuel from being diverted to the Myanmar Air Force. In response to our findings, Thai Oil told us they are pausing aviation fuel shipments. And Williamson, a shipping agent, told us it will no longer provide such services to vessels transporting aviation fuel into Myanmar. Any other company considering selling, shipping, financing, trading, or distributing aviation fuel to Myanmar risk being linked to crimes committed by its military. If we want to stop airstrikes that are killing civilians, let's cut off the military's access to fuel and ground its aircraft.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Christina from Amnesty International Malaysia. Again, thank you so much for still being here. I know it's quite late, so I'll make this quick. There's also a wonderful performance that's happening right after me, so please stay tuned for that. But as you saw in the video, and as many of you already know, after the military coup in 2021 and the brutal crackdown on protesters, the fighting between the Myanmar military and armed groups across the country escalated significantly, right? And since then, the Myanmar military has relied on its air force, which regularly carries out airstrikes with fighter jets and attack helicopters. These airstrikes have killed, maimed, and displaced civilians across the country, targeting schools, IDP camps, and other civilian infrastructure. Now, the Air Force relies on aviation fuel to power the aircrafts used in these attacks, right? And this aviation fuel is supplied, imported, handled, stored, and distributed by several companies, both foreign and domestic, and ends up in the bases from which attacks that have killed civilians have been launched. Now, Amnesty International published a report called Deadly Cargo in 2022, which detailed the supply chain of aviation fuel, from the port where the fuel originally departs from to the airstrikes conducted by the Myanmar Air Force that amount to war crimes. When we then released new research in 2024 on how the aviation fuel supply chain shifted since then due to sanctions, but we believe at least some of the aviation fuel that has entered Myanmar continues to be used by the military to conduct unlawful airstrikes. So today, since we're here to stand with the people of Myanmar, let's take this opportunity to call on governments to end their involvement in the supply of aviation fuel to the Myanmar military and help stop the ongoing airstrikes. And here's how we're going to do it. Let's move on to the next slide, please. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna create paper planes. We'll show you how to do it very shortly, but you all have the colored paper. If not, please reach out to one of the volunteers. What we're going to do is we're going to fold paper planes, right? A simple but powerful symbol. And we'll be writing our messages there. So examples of what you can write is halt the assault on the people of Myanmar, or stop jet fuel to end airstrikes. All right, the second thing that we're going to do on the next slide, take a picture and share this widely on social media, right? So take a photo of yourself holding the paper plane. It doesn't matter if your face is not inside it, if you're not comfortable. Use these hashtags, please. So what's happening in Myanmar, save Myanmar, and don't forget Myanmar. What we're going to do next is we're going to be tagging the targeted officials. We are tagging ASEAN Secretariat. We are tagging the Malaysian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these are where you can tag them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. If this is going too fast, please feel free to take a picture, but we can come back to this slide. Next slide, please. All right, and then spread the message, please. So encourage your friends, family, followers to join this campaign throughout February this month, right? In commemoration of the 4th anniversary of the Spring Uprising. Share information about the human rights crisis in Myanmar and how their action can help protect thousands of people. We can move on to the next slide where we have like a little bit of instructions. We'll maybe take 5 minutes to do this and then we can wrap this up. Can we have some music to be played, please? Thank you so much. Okay, we're waiting for the music, but I'm starting the timer now. We have 5 minutes, yeah? If you don't have pens, please reach out to some of my colleagues that they're coming in the middle of the aisle. Yeah? Oh, right, you came to our office, right? Yes. Okay, if it's too small, if the instructions are too small, first fold the paper in half, like so. And then you want to make 2 folds up here. And then it should look like that. And then you're going to fold the wings until you have flat wings, and that's where you're going to write your message. That one looks perfect. Okay, get a pen and write your message. Love that. Okay, we have 4 more minutes. If you're particularly proud of your airplane, please bring them to the camera so we can get a good shot of it. Three more minutes. You have 2 more minutes. The messages we want to write are halt the assault on the people of Myanmar and stop where was it? Stop aviation fuel? Sorry. Yes. Halt the assault on the people of Myanmar and then stop jet fuel something. Stop jet fuel for airstrikes. Yes. Halt the assault on the people of Myanmar. Stop jet fuel for airstrikes. Okay. If you're done, please take a picture, tag the ASEAN Secretariat, tag the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Malaysia. Let them know that we want them to focus on this issue. You have 1 more minute before we wrap up. I think most people are done. You have 30 more seconds. More seconds. And time's up. All right, thank you so much, everybody. Please be seated. There will be a wonderful performance right after this. Again, I thank you all for showing up in solidarity. Please don't forget to take these pictures, tag the ASEAN Secretariat, tag the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Malaysia. I think we can display the handles really quickly, but also I think if you want to see the research that we have, it's on the next slide. Okay, here, if you want to take another quick shot of the social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, Wisma Putra, Tokmat Hassan, ASEAN Secretariat. Okay, we can move on to the 5th slide, I think. Thank you. Okay, if you want to take a look at the research that we have, it's called Deadly Cargo. Feel free to scan the QR code. My colleagues are also outside at the booth with more QR codes for you to take a look at. With that, thank you so much. I pass it back to Jaw. Yeah. Woo!
Thank you so much, Christina, for leading these meaningful solidarity actions. I hope that everyone has found a way how to tag and how to hashtag and how to do the playing more in a good way. All right. Okay, so without further delay, I would like to proceed to our next program agenda. I will now like to invite students from the Kachin Refugee Learning Center to present a culture performance. Let's welcome them with a round of applause. They have been waiting the whole night to perform.
nga AICHR Palayan ka de du myu la sa Du wa na Jini tui ni te kum Du yan wa te mung kum Mri tik sa Palayan ni nga AICHR Nginda de du myu la sa Du wa na Du wa na Hong jing sha ni so ra ai You so share ning kring ni Man ni sum sai te bai du wa na You so share ning kring ni Ong ba da te du wa dan But tang ma nao pe nao chong nao ga What ni te mong nga jin sa Mri tik sai Mong jing sha ni nga AICHR Palayan ka de du myu la sa Du wa na Jini tui ni te kum Du yan wa te mong Mri tik sai Bayan ni nga AICHR Nginda de du myu la sa Du wa na Du wa na Mong jing sha ni so ra ai You so share ning kring ni Man ni sum sai te bai du wa na You so share ning kring ni Ong ba dang te du wa dan But tang ma nao pe nao chong nao ga Du wa na Du wa na Bong jing sha ni so ra ai You so share ning kring ni Man ni sum sai te bai du wa na You so share ning kring ni Ong ba dang te du wa dan But tang ma nao pe nao chong nao ga So share ning kring ni Ong ba dang te du wa dan But tang ma nao pe nao chong nao ga Du wa na
Wow, this was an amazing performance. Let us give them another round of applause for their talent and effort. And the song is composing about a revolutionary fighter who missed his hometowns, and one day he will come back to the place with a victory. And then let's dance the victory Now dance. Okay, all right, let us move on. We have now reached the final stage of our event. A collective act of resistance. So since the beginning of February 1st, 2021, the people of Myanmar has been banking pots and pans as a form of peaceful protest against the military junta. This act holds deep cultural and symbolic significance. I just want to share a bit brief of that story. I'm not going to talk a lot. In Myanmar culture, like a banging pots and pans is believed to drive away the evil spirits, right? And it's a protester used this traditional to signify the military junta as an evil force that must be removed from our country. And next is about using the banging pans and pot is a kind of the non-violence protest. So everyone can participate to this protest, and then everyone can do it from everywhere. So it's also a symbol of collectives, all can do it to drive out this evil military junta, right? And also it's grabbed the global attentions when the Burmese people started. So if you have brought, okay, so those who have brought, please stand up and then please, yes, please. Younger, wait, we haven't started yet. Please stand up and then come forward if you are. Let's see how many people brought the pots and pans to bang. Or I think someone also, some of you also can take the, if they are allowed, plates and, the plates and spoon. Tang, okay. Don't break it, okay? You can do it very, very slowly, yeah. If you break it, you have to pay, Okay, okay, how many of you, please, those who bring, no, let's start together, sorry, Yanka. Sorry, yeah, it's a collective action, so we should start together as well. Okay, so I'm going to count, and then when you are doing that, you can chant, victory for us, okay? Free Myanmar now. You say good things for the people, and you banking the pots and pans to chase out the evil military junta, all right? Can we do that? Yeah. Okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3. Free Myanmar now. Federal democracy. Federal democracy. Right for all. Right for all. Free Myanmar now. Free Myanmar now. Free Myanmar now. Free Myanmar now. Thank you so much. It's noisy, but very, very meaningful. Thank you, thanks a lot for everyone. So, before we end our programs, now shall we all stand up? So let us observe a minute of silence for people who lost their lives during the struggle for justice, freedom, peace, and federal democracy in our country. So let us all keep a silence for a minute, and let us remember, and we all can pray in our own way, and let us remember those who have lost their family member and their life and their part of the bodies, the kids who got killed, thousands of people who innocently been killed by the military bombardments. So let us remember silently for a minute. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for observing the silence. Please be seated. Thank you so much. So, if you would like to participate more on the cause of Myanmar, and you may kindly follow social media of all the organizations that organize tonight events, right? If you would like to post anything on social media, please kindly get the consent from the people who you took the picture for. Kindly use the following hashtag on your social media. Okay, I will just read out. 4 years of resistance, you can hashtag, or Free Myanmar Now, you can hashtag, or Fight for Freedom and Fight for Federal Democracy, and Stand with Myanmar, hashtag 2 ASEANs. Again, thank you so much all for your support, solidarity. Please keep the conversation ongoing and work for the betterment, human rights, and establishment of federal democracy in Burma. I hope this meaningful gathering will continue to support the struggle of Burmese people. Once again, I thank all our speakers, organizers, and guests for joining us in this important solidarity events. Let us continue to stand together for free and federal democratic Myanmar. Free Myanmar now! Free Myanmar now! Free Myanmar now! Free Myanmar now! Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Everyone, good night.